in a public.
I am, but it's the School for the Deaf and Blind Grove in the state of Utah.
Okay, so you gotta go all the way.
I mostly stay in Springville now. I used to travel a lot more.
I'm just gonna test Zoom. So those on Zoom, if you can hear okay, can you put something in the Q&A?
Yeah.
Somebody has to read it, but I get you guys to make sure.
I have very few memories. One is that earthquake.
It is, yeah. I've noticed in the city council.
I'm just wondering how long.
You've got this.
Well, and nobody's watching the chats. At the time, nobody's watching the chats.
I have nothing to be mad about.
But if you don't want that, you better ask.
And I think that's watch.
So you're it.
Okay, I'm in.
I don't know about that, Paul. I think you're gonna have to visit everybody.
And they don't turn on the sound until we come out. So you're sitting there watching everybody's talking. So it's like, I believe so. Last time I just don't watch these.
We'll start in just a minute. Make sure to grab some food and sit down. And if you're a board member, we have name tags for you so people know who you are.
I've accosted several people who aren't board members.
Well, as you should. Okay, we have some more people coming in. And there's two different sign-in sheets. They're both exactly the same. Yes.
I feel I was like, I gotta go to the meeting. How could it is so with
Yeah, that's true.
And are you there also? I mean, as you are you retired?
I have a small. Cancel uppers belts. Belts, Michigan belts.
Adjustable ones?
I remember I'd been everybody for about 6 or 8 months.
Everybody's different.
I had that. Some reason.
And in our downtown, you're done, if you will help us. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
See any other board members I need to give a name tag? What's your prep?
Savings of heating.
Any bits of you videos?
I haven't seen videos, but he sure talks about it.
It's having been tested, so man versus machine, see how well I do.
He's funny, so every time he swims, he says.
He's excited.
Literally none of that is.
And I can't believe how affordable this could be.
Did I see Kristen?
Right. I have a friend down in Springfield, he says. Here. Knows they get more.
Scott.
Miami.
Yeah.
You got a few.
We're at 5 after, so we're gonna start. And apparently, Rachel, do I comprehend? I don't need a mic anymore?
Well, if the people in the room can't hear you, we do have a mic.
Mine could be great.
What about Zoom?
Zoom,
I know,
How many people are on Zoom?
I know people complaining I'm not loud enough. So that was my kid's excuse anyway. So we're gonna go ahead and start. I thought that was too loud. All right. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start. And Paul Warner is offered is the wrong word, but agreed to give our opening prayer. And then Lynn Sorensen will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we'll be off on our agenda.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful to be able to gather in this great country and this wonderful city. We appreciate the freedoms we enjoy, and we're grateful for the wonderful things that we're able to do together. We pray that the meeting tonight will be successful, but we'll get the information we need, and we'll be able to make wise recommendations as we go through the process. Again, we're thankful for America. We're thankful for those that gave their lives many years ago that we might have the freedoms that we enjoy now. We pray that the transfer of power next Monday will be successful, will be smooth and that we'll move forward again with a new president and doing those things that we will be asked to do to follow and to be good citizens. Again, we thank you for all these blessings and express thanks in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Will the audience please rise? She made a mistake in asking the inveterate pedagogue to lead the pledge. We are no longer in kindergarten. We do not need to say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. No, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Whole sentence, we can do it. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And there's your civics lesson. Okay, I like it. Hey, welcome. We're so glad you're all here and that the room filled in. We're gonna, real quick, and I didn't warn the board members that they were gonna have to do this, so surprise. Because you think that you're just gonna meet the new board members, what I want for most of the neighbors in the area to know is who represents what area. So, if I say your neighborhood, stand up quickly, please, board members, and introduce both of yourselves. So we'll start at the south end. Surprise. Pleasant View is Lynn Sorensen continuing. Wave Lynn. And Michael Sellers is new. And if you want to take 10 seconds, tell us.
I'll give him my 10
Okay, go, Mike.
So I'm Mike Sellers. I actually bought the house I grew up in, so I've been here forever. So I've lived in the house since I live on 2200, which is the road that goes up from the neighborhood Walmart up to the temple. I've lived there since it was not actually a through street. It used to end in front of my house. I don't remember that time very much, but yeah, so I've been here for a long time. Went to Rock Canyon Fair in Timpview, and I'm happy to serve.
Okay, and Paul Warner and Zach Hostetler.
And I'll turn my time to my good neighbor, Zach, who's new.
Paul's continuing and Zach is your new rep.
Yeah, new, happy to be here. Zach Holtzapfel, pleasure.
Okay, and in Indian Hills, we have Becca Curl continuing, stand up, and Rhoda Galfing is new. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'm Rhoda Doffin, Indian Hills. I've been there 30 years. I'm new, want to work on helping get more information out to Indian Hills. So if you're from there and you want to come talk to me, please do, or Becca. We'd happy to get you more involved.
Okay, and Edgemont continuing northish. I'm Sharon Mamet and one of your reps, and Scott Murray is the new person. Want to say anything, Scott?
Sure, just been here all 84 years of my life, grew up and raised in Edgemont.
Cool, we're excited you're here. Riverside is Robert Hammond, and he says he cannot find a counterpart. So if you know anybody in Riverside who wants to be more involved, go ahead, Robert.
Robert Hammond, and I've lived in Riverside since '71, so a little while. But we're looking for another partner for me, but thank you.
And Sherwood Hills is Richard Pratt, continuing, and Kristen Winward.
He's on the Zoom.
Who's on Zoom. Does she want to say anything real quick, Rachel? Or?
You want to say?
Hi. Sure. Hi, I'm Kristen Winward. I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight. My husband had to go out of state for a funeral, and I have 4 boys who would cause a bit of chaos if I brought them there, but happy to be here.
Great. Riverbottoms is Matthew Wheelwright, who could not be here tonight. He teaches at BYU. And Jeff Olson is new. Jeff, there you go.
Jeff Olson, Riverbottoms, been about 10 years. Luke, I could throw a rock at the wheels.
Okay. And North Timpview is our most north area. Bonnie Morrow is continuing, and Jen Griffin is new. Jen, introduce yourself.
I'm Jennifer Griffin. I've lived somewhere in North Timpview for about 35 years-ish. So I've been there a long time. And I love it. I love our little Provo area. So I travel a lot, but it's the best place to come home to. So I really love Provo. And I'm glad we're all here supporting it.
Cool. Okay. We got a really big agenda, and so we have to move really quickly, but I didn't want to move forward without recognizing our outgoing board members, who I don't think are here tonight except for possibly Marion. Stan Jensen worked on the board for a year. I don't see a Stan. We have certificates that they printed for them. So sweet. And Kent Johnson from Edgemont last year. And Lauren Middleton did this, worked with the neighborhood program for about 6 years. And Mary Monahan from Edgemont also, who has done this in some form or fashion for the last 22 years. So we wanted you to know we love you, Marion. So we all pitched in and got you a blanket. Yes, stand up, please, Marion. Come on. And you'll see that the blanket says neighborhood champion on it. And flowers. And nothing's without chocolate, so we got chocolate too. And I don't know, well, Bonnie will help you. Those of you who may have listened or may not have listened last night's city council meeting may have heard that our own Rachel Breen, our neighborhood coordinator for the city. So she's actually hired and gets paid and coordinates all the neighborhood program. Is the Provo City Employee of the Month. And they sort of said it for the year. So we got her a little treat too.
Oh, I hope it's chocolate.
It is chocolate. I mean, if it's from me, it's probably chocolate. So.
Very good.
So anyway, so now we need to move quickly on to our neighborhood actual meeting stuff. Yes, thank you. Those two. So what we have on the agenda are 2 topics from departments. I'm going to let you move from one to the other quickly without reintroducing you. We have Michael Sanders from the council office. He's a council office policy analyst. He's going to discuss the proposed noise ordinance. I know Pleasant View is very interested in this, but I also know it's not complete. So if you still want to give input on this, you will be allowed to do that via, has it even gone to planning commission yet?
Have to go to planning.
Oh, it doesn't, okay. So it won't go to planning commission, but you will be able to write, email, or present at city council if you have any comment you want to make on this. And then it will go straight to Malia Daly from the, also an analyst from the council, and she'll discuss some of the current accessory dwelling unit rules and policies.
Hey, yes. Can everybody hear me? All right, awesome. Well, good evening, Neighborhood District 1. My name is Michael. This is my debut performance here at the neighborhood program. I work as a policy analyst for the council. I'm from the Cherry Hill neighborhood in Orem, and I have been heading up the noise ordinance for the past several months here. All right, so let's go through this. First, why? Ooh, there we go. Why an update? So we had 2 counselors that requested some research be conducted regarding the noise enforcement, and we also received a detailed list of complaints from some Pleasant View representatives. Thank you very much for that, everyone. So these combined with the legal department's comment to us that the ordinance was really old and outdated prompted a full review of the noise ordinance. So before I get into the proposed changes, I'll just give some information regarding the noise ordinance. Oh, someone is clicking my thing. Okay. So it's typically how it kind of relates to BYU and your guys' neighborhoods. So we tabulated 5 years of police call data and found out that there were a little under 800 noise complaints. a year, or about 64 a month in the past 5 years. And the neighborhood district with the highest amount of complaints is District 5. So 48% of the calls in the last 5 years were from neighborhood District 5. And neighborhood District 1, you guys were the winner with the least amount of noise complaints, 6%. Congratulations.
Can I tell you why?
Yeah, I don't mean to skew your data, but Pleasant View neighborhood hasn't been in District 1 except for the last year. So I wondered if you broke it down.
Yes.
By addresses, where that's coming from.
Yes, right here. So,
And we stopped calling.
right.
Because they did nothing about Timpview making noise.
Right.
They're just having fun.
Right.
Okay.
So the data gets a little interesting. You break it down by neighborhood. So 5 of the neighborhoods account for half of all those noise complaints. And most of the calls that we looked at are related to loud music and parties in the neighborhood and not related to the BYU Stadium. So the neighborhoods near the BYU Stadium, Pleasant View, and University combined, if you look at all those calls, they represent 2% of noise complaints over the past 5 years. So that's 46 or 9 a year.
So you say noise complaints to the police?
Yes, so interestingly, it does not count the 47 complaints that was tracked and sent to us. If you include those, let's see, Pleasant View jumps up from 27th place to 17th place. But even with that jump, Pleasant View and University still represent only about 3% of the noise complaints. So overall, noise complaints from the Pleasant View and University neighborhoods represent a minority of noise complaints in the city. All right. That's just what the data tells us. All right, so all that aside, what's proposed? So there's 3 main changes to the enforcement side of the ordinance and 1 main change to the exemption. So first, the enforcement. We're changing we're refining the noise limit determination. So before there were many different determinations of noise, different zoning, like 4 different tables that the police had to look at to determine if there were a violation. And we consolidated all of that and reduced the number of things they had to look at in the ordinance from 162 things just to 18 things. So it's going to be really easy for the officers to look through and see if there's some sort of violation going on.
Is that published somewhere?
Yes. Everything that I'm showing you was presented to the council at the last work meeting in December.
I'm not on the council.
But you have
You can find all the documents on agenda.provos.org. Or you can email the council office and we can get it to you. All right, second key change, introduction of ambient noise-based measurement. So the new ordinance is just trying to provide more flexibility by adding ambient noise-based limits. That's what ambient means, is like the noise that is constantly kind of happening. So this kind of tailors the enforcement to the local environment. So noise violations will now be assessed relative to existing ambient levels rather than just a standalone decibel level. So this actually keeps quiet areas quieter and allowing for context-specific situations that if there's a loud noise in a relatively quiet area, then it would be considered a violation. So finally, improved enforcement measures. So the current ordinance as it stands right now in the code has a really detailed enforcement procedure section based off of a really verbose and old document. And it was super specific to the enforcement procedures, and the strict protocols that are in the code right now actually make it difficult for us to prosecute noise violations. So we just took that section completely out so that the police have more flexibility on how they can measure the noise and get it prosecuted in court. All right, currently it's also proposed to maintain the current exemptions. So these types of situations will not be required to conform to the ordinance. So emergency vehicles, city-sponsored events, temporary activities with an exemption from the mayor, and legally discharged fireworks. All those are going to be considered exempt. Yes, sir.
How do you measure the baseline ambient noise?
With a noise level reader.
Okay.
I don't know, that's an enforcement issue.
The exemptions confuse me. Noise ordinances are to protect the public against excessive noise that disturbs our lifestyle, our sleep, our dogs, our children. And yet you exempt the very things that are the biggest cause of this disturbance from noise. It doesn't look good to the public that the city exempts things like BYU sporting events and stadium and fire.
And high school sporting
In
events.
high school, okay, good. And you exempt those, and those are the biggest source for many citizens of the complaint. It doesn't look good. It looks like, well, if it's a multi-billion-dollar sport athletic corporation like BYU, we'll leave them alone.
Right, that's.
It looks like you're in collusion with the source of the noise, excessive noise.
Yeah, that's some good feedback.
Look
If you
good.
you have anything specific to tell the council, then I would recommend you email it to them before the agenda. Well, great, then they probably read it. And we'll take it into account. So now on to that sticky subject of BYU. So technically right now, BYU and all other college and high school stadiums are not exempted from the noise ordinance, nor do we have a record of them ever receiving an exemption. However, the council has found that the stadiums are a hub for community engagement and economic development, and we recommended that the stadiums be exempted in some fashion. So during the December 17th work meeting, the council was briefed on this issue, specifically regarding BYU and other athletic stadiums, and after discussion, the council directed staff to draft some language that would exempt athletic competitions, regardless of the time of day, and exempt other activities only during daytime hours, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And all non-sport activities taking place at night will require a permit from the mayor's office. So why 7 to 10? That's the main question that the council kind of contemplated, and they kind of decided that this will keep it consistent with the noise table that governs all the other noise across the city. So if you have any other feedback on the proposed ordinance, just feel free to email the council or attend the council meeting when it's placed on the agenda. We're currently anticipating that it'll be voted on January 28th. All right, Chair Amendment.
If you're done, then, well, I guess you can.
Looks like we have another question or comment.
I just had one question. So with the athletic exemptions and the events, is there anything in the language that distinguishes preparatory or cleanup time versus the actual event? As far as noise is concerned, or is there nothing in the language?
No, there's nothing in the language about that.
Did you, so if you're on the city council, would you raise your hand, please? I know I saw Catrice. Nobody else. Okay, so we do have one council member here listening. We may have others online, but as he mentioned, put it in writing, email it. You can have all the conversations you want, but in my opinion, if it's not in writing, they don't have something to refer back to, so we don't know who's made a comment or how many. So I was just saying that if you have a comment, I like Michael's idea of adding some language about cleanup time. So yeah, the sporting event's over, but now we have to clean up or whatever. Is there language in it about that? I would ask if there's language in the proposed code about, are you gonna send some kind of a notice to the neighbors that this event's coming and they will be exempted, at least for these hours? So if you need to make special arrangements, be aware. Those would be my comments. Lynn, did you have a comment?
What are the requirements to receive a permit? Is that just capricious? Hey, I know the mayor, she said we could have this. But I mean, how is that decided to receive a permit?
So language in the code should have some kind of outline, at least, of how you get a permit, what kind of thing would be exempted, I guess. Any other comments on this? Okay, we're going to turn it over to Malia for discussion about ADU. Thank you, Michael, for coming. I know you don't usually have to deal with.
Why is he here?
There we go.
Thanks, Sharon. Hi, everyone. So I don't have, unlike Michael, I don't have a specific ordinance that I'm going over as far as an update. This is just something Rachel came and said that the district just requested kind of an ADU overview of what the laws are. There have been a lot of law changes in the past 3 or 4 years. So this is just gonna be what the law is as of right now, today. Here are the laws, here are the regulations, and then, as always, questions. So I'm just gonna go through this here. So this is just, so ADUs, when we're talking about that, it's accessory dwelling units. So here's a kind of picture, this is in our general plan, but attached either, well, detached, so it's on the same lot, but it's in a separate building. Or attached either basement or attic. We have a lot of basement ADUs in the Joaquin neighborhood, for example. And then, or attached, kind of built off on the side, but it's still attached. So in our code, we treat all types of ADUs as the same. So everything I'm going over from here on out will be both for attached, or some people might say detached and internal ADUs. So those are kind of the words for those. So this is just where are they prohibited. So this is all found, I should say, this is found in our city code, chapter 1430, 14.30. You can go online and find it all there. How our code is written is kind of confusing, so I tried to put it in a chart on where they are prohibited and where they are allowed. So this is the simplest I could get it. But they are prohibited in all pro zones, R2 PD zones, and then all of those residential zones. So that is RM, I think it's manufactured, just like mobile homes. So you couldn't really have an ADU there anyway, but. And then where are they allowed? So west of I-15, except STP 5, which is down there, and R2 PD zones west of I-15. And then they're also allowed in specific R1.6 and R1.8 areas that are in our code on the map, which is right here. So you can see from the slide before, R1.6 and R1.8 prohibited in the entire city except from things from this map. And I won't get into how this map exists or why it's kind of clunky and confusing. I can later. But so throughout the whole city, prohibited R1.6, R1.8, except this map and except west of I-15.
So they are allowed in the gray area.
If your house is in one of these gray areas, you are allowed. So,
Question?
of course, yes.
So within District 1, which this group, the only place that they're allowed is in the Pleasant View neighborhood.
Pleasant View neighborhood, yeah.
That's the only,
Or by right, by zoning. If someone has a special use permit, which I'll go to next, then they can also have one. That's different than zoning. These are where ADUs are allowed by right for your property because of the zoning of your house or because of its in code in the ordinance. There's another way that you can get, well, actually we got rid of it. So actually, that's all you can do. Sorry, we just did that and I've been doing this for 4 years, so I'm confused. Ignore that. So that's where ADUs are allowed. So now, how do I get an ADU in my home? Or if my zone does not allow it. So if your house is in a zone that doesn't allow it, we get this question a lot from people that want to try and get an ADU. So there's 3 ways that someone could get an ADU if their house does not automatically get one because of the zone that they're in. So you can do a signature path, which is either multiple properties or a single property can apply for an ordinance text amendment in which they get the signatures of neighbors around them that say.
That's not a single property.
That's not gone. That's still in the code. We just got, I'll keep explaining in a second. Okay. You can get the neighbor signatures, but before you could do that and then you would automatically get your special use permit and have an ADU. The council just got rid of that. Now you can still get your neighbor's signature, and if you do get the signatures, your fee for the amendment is cut in half. So instead of $1,000 for your fee to apply, it's now $500 because you got all the signatures. But you still have to go through the normal process and the council still has to approve it at the end. So The other ways is single or more multiple property. You say, well, I want my house to have it by right on the land. I don't want to go through the ordinance text amendment. I'm just going to do a rezone. And so you can pick a zone where ADUs are allowed and try and rezone your property to that zone. So like MDR or LDR, they allow ADUs. So if your house is zoned R1.6 and you want to have an ADU, you don't want to go through the ordinance text amendment to be added to that map, then you can try and apply for a rezone of your property to have a higher density zoning on your land. It's usually not successful, just to let you know. And then you can also do the same as that first path I talked about, the multiple or single property ordinance text amendment, but you don't get signatures from your neighbors, and so your fee is still going to be the full amount, the full $1,000. And you don't have those signatures, so when you go to the council, they might say, well, how does your neighborhood feel? How do your neighbors feel? And you might not know because you don't have the signatures with you there. So those are kind of the pathways. Rachel.
Yes. What is considered your neighbors?
Excellent question. So yeah, we had to figure that out in code. So in that section 14.30, in that section of code, we call it immediate adjacent properties. We don't say neighbors, but then we have a definition of what that means for the properties that are immediately adjacent. And when someone is applying for an ADU, if you go into the planning department and say, I'm trying to get signatures, what properties do I need? They'll pull up a map and point to the exact ones that you'll need. So they can help you. You don't have to try and figure that out on your own. One note, all of these pathways all require at the end council vote and council approval. So regardless if you get signatures, the signatures just help give you evidence to try and convince the council and will lower your fee for applying for an amendment, but that doesn't guarantee that you get one. There used to be a pathway up until about 2 months ago where if you got signatures, you didn't have to go to the council and you just got a permit, but the council just got rid of that. So that no longer exists.
Did they also get rid of the
60 plus?
They did not. No, so I can't speak to that. So there is also in our code something called an extra, what is it? Elderly person's extra living space. Thank you, Jessica, who's here. The council did not get rid of that. They actually lowered the age. So now the age is 60. So if you're 60 or older in Provo, you can go into planning and apply for an elderly person's extra living space.
Only one person in the house has to be 60 or older now.
Yes.
It used to be everybody who lived there, which was horrible.
Yeah. So the person that is applying and going to be living in the house needs to be, yes, the owner of it. Then you can go in and you can apply for that which is essentially an ADU, but it's not under the same classifications. It doesn't run with the land. It's not an official on the books kind of ADU zoning property, right? It's just a special use for that person as long as they live there. They get a permit for it.
Not go to council.
Does not go to council. I don't know the fee. I will look up the fee on that. I'm not, that's a great question. I'm not sure about that.
It's $50.
It's $50 for that. Thank you again, Jessica.
Is that a one-time fee or annual?
One-time fee. Yeah, one-time fee for the initial application. Yeah. And then I believe you have to get an RDL, which you'll have to reapply for, but I think that's $20 a year. Okay. Then the last question I kind of wanted to go over was if you think there's an ADU that's illegal, calling 311, they can help you. Also reporting online, the Provo homepage, I want to, there's like subheadings and then submit a code enforcement complaint and there's a portal there that you can do it. Calling 311 is super easy though and they can direct you to the right people and just do it over the phone. But if you want that email and kind of paper trail, then I would suggest doing it online. But that's all I have. Yes. So ADUs under the path that we just got rid of, They do not stay with the land. So those are special use permits. So you're permitted to use your property in a certain way. They're not property rights by right because the zoning or the ordinance wasn't changed. So the people that got them through that pathway are grandfathered in. You can keep them as long as you are the owner and you keep your RDL and all your regulations for your ADU up. But there's no new ADUs that can come through that way, but ones that were permitted under that use are allowed to be permitted as long as they're maintaining, keeping up with ADU code and regulations and RDL code.
They have to live in.
Yes, so the definition of an ADU is that it's owner occupied and the person, and then there's someone rented. As soon as the person who owns the home is not living in that home, it's technically not an ADU anymore. Now it's a duplex because both are being rented. So for it to be an ADU, by definition, the owner has to live in it. It has to be owner occupied. Any other questions?
Family?
What about?
Family live in an ADU?
Yeah, so by our code, your family can live with you and it doesn't have to be an ADU, they can live with you.
Your relationship.
Yeah.
So all the granny flats in my neighborhood that were built for somebody's mom back in the day, as long as they rent to family, it's still legal, even though my neighborhood is.
The definition of family is rather limited.
There is a definition of family in our code, and I can, off the top of my head, I don't know the code reference for that or the whole definition because it's like a page long.
It's in 1406 under definition.
1406 under definition, there's a definition of what family means, but if it's like your grandma or your brother or sister or someone close to you, it's fine. There's some rules about like, cause the further you go out, it gets a little different.
So my neighbors who have granny flats from when they had grandma living in their house, they can rent to anybody or only the family?
Well, it depends on if they're allowed to have an ADU. Just because you have the presence of an ADU or a house that's set up with an ADU, if it's not in the correct zoning, then it's not an automatic. So I would just go and check. I would go to either call our planning department, you can call 311 and they'll direct you, or talk to our planning department, and our planners are really great and we'll talk through what your property is allowed to do and all your options if you do want to try and do something else with it. Yeah.
I'm thinking in terms of the people that live around me, not me.
Yeah, that's fair. We have a question back there. Really.
So my neighbor, they pretending they live in a house, but actually don't. And then the basement has one man and one woman, and then they're putting up the rental sign by the yard and try to rent it out. And also they try to apply the third kitchen in their house. So it is not, first of all, they are not living there, so it's not ADU.
Yeah, so it's not an ADU.
And then there's a two separate household living in, and then try to rent out another one and try to build another kitchen.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a duplex, which will probably be illegal according to this, I don't know where you live, but like, I don't know, but I would contact code enforcement and our planning department and they can look up the property, and if you submit a complaint, then they can go and enforce on that and look into that, so I would definitely submit that. A question.
I was just gonna ask if you're thinking that it's a neighborhood-wide problem or, you know, several block kind of problem, and you're seeing lots of renters and things like that, can you kind of submit a broad complaint to the planning department so they can verify that the properties are being used correctly?
You can submit a broad complaint. I will say our code enforcement staff is more helpful the more details they have, because it's hard for them to just kind of go from house to house and ask people things, especially if people are aware that they're doing something illegal, then it's hard for them to get information. So the more specific, the better. But any complaint that is helpful and can kind of direct them is good.
How is the code enforced?
That is a great question for code enforcement and their process. We have had some work meetings about kind of their step-by-steps on how they enforce codes specifically on ADUs. And I can send Rachel some of those meeting materials and maybe she can send them to the board. And you can get those dispersed. But yeah, they have a step-by-step guide there. But they usually take a complaint and then they'll go and look at kind of what the property is zoned for and what on record the property can be used for. So like an ADU, for example, they'll say, well, this isn't in an allowed zone. So now we know ADU isn't allowed. They also don't have a special use permit. They don't have anything with that, so they automatically know that. So then if a complaint is about an ADU, then they'll try and gather evidence. And this is where it gets kind of tricky. They might try to go online and find a rental listing. They might go to the actual house and ask the people that are living there. So they have a bunch of different methods for that. But like I said, we have had some work meetings on that, so I'll get that info to Rachel. But also, you could call code enforcement and ask them as well, but
do all those things and it's out of code.
Yeah.
Now what?
Then they go to court and they get prosecuted by the city. So we have an attorney actually on staff that works with code enforcement most of their time, and they take out of compliance code violations to court weekly.
And how many of those do you have a month or a year?
I don't know. I would have to follow up.
3 or 300?
I'd probably closer to 300, but I'll have to follow up. Yes, I think there's a question over here, but I don't remember who that was. Yes.
Explain a little bit more, if you would, the idea of an ADU that goes with the property versus one that doesn't, and kind of where the line is drawn there.
That's a great question. Yeah. So ADU with the property. So if an ADU with the property is through zoning. So zoning or it's in our code. All right, that's okay. I don't know. Sorry, Rachel.
In District 1, it's only the Pleasant View neighborhood.
Yes. So an ADU that runs with the land, that's correct. ADU that runs with the land will be because they are in a zone that allows for ADUs. So in Provo City, your ADU runs with the land, you could sell it 5 times in 1 year, and each of those people would be allowed to have an ADU if they follow all the regulations and get a rental dwelling license. If they are in these zones, and these zones include this very clunky, clumsy map that we have. So it also includes any homes found within these gray geometric shapes here. So those are ADUs that run with the land. All other ADUs, which we used to have through special use permits, which we just got rid of. So there are a couple of those now in the city as well. Those ADUs were done through neighbors getting signatures. So if I wanted an ADU, and Sharon was my neighbor, I said, Sharon, I'd like an ADU. I would have to get her. And then at least 66% of the properties around me would have to say, I'm okay with that. I think that's fine. And they would sign. And then I'd go to planning and say, hi, I like an ADU. It's not going to be a zone change and it's not going to be added to this map. But I would still like to have an ADU. My neighbor said it was fine. I'm following all the RDL regulations. My ADU is past health and safety inspection. We're good to go. And then planning would say, okay, as long as you're the owner and you're following all these things and you get inspected, you have to come reapply every year. Here's a special use permit that only you can use this property for this use. But as soon as me as the owner moved out or sold it or anything, then that ADU allowance goes away and the person would have to then go through a rezone or a text amendment. That makes sense.
Is there any rule differentiation or distinction made between a separate ADU versus an internal ADU?
There's not in our code. In our code, they're treated one and the same.
The bottom line is what Paul said. The only ones in the area of District 1 where you live is in Pleasant View.
Or if anyone got a special use permit, well, that was,
Yes, but they're not
Yes.
permanent.
but they're not permanent, they don't run with the land, they run with that
Few
owner.
of them, there are some in your neighborhood, in your guys' area, but
So
the
if you have
bottom
it,
line
you
is that
know
most of the ones you're talking about are probably illegal. For sure. Yeah, so.
They were built in, the sixties.
And it doesn't matter if your house was built for it, it doesn't give it to you, period. And they can say, we did it for 20 years, it doesn't matter how long you've done it for. It's not legal. So, but that just makes it clearer for you. If some of you have rentals, then all these other things matter to you. But as far as where you live, it's only the Pleasant View neighborhood that has longstanding ones that'll be forever.
I have one more question right here.
The definition of owner occupied.
Yes.
How is that defined? How long does the owner have to live there? Is it a certain number of months per year, or how is that evaluated?
That is a great question. So for ADUs, we updated our code on this as well recently. ADUs, you have to be living in the home when you apply, and you had to have been living there, and you have to live there the entirety of you having that ADU there.
Paying the mortgage.
Yeah, you have to be the owner and occupying it. There is an exception in the code. There's like a weird exception if you're like on sabbatical or a 2-year service mission or something. But those are very rare, and you have to apply for it before you leave, and then it gets tracked. But as far as an ADU, you have to be living in the home 100%. You live there while you're renting it.
So if they have two homes and they divide their time between that one and this one, that doesn't count.
Does not count. Yeah, it has to be your primary residence and where you live. Okay, you guys got a long meeting, so I'll wrap it up. But I will send that info about code enforcement to Rachel, and then if you have any follow-up questions, please contact me. I'm happy to talk with anyone. My name is Malia, and I just work in the council office, so thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Okay, next on our agenda is our own Bonnie Morrow and Brian Morrow. They have a proposed zone map amendment from residential agriculture zone to R1.10 zone. We promise this will only take 5 minutes. We think it's going to be an easy one, uncontroversial. So if you have questions for her.
Just so you know, they're still in the review process.
There we go. And that's why Rachel put this up. This is the process for code change. So even as Malia talked about like AU and other changes, if somebody wants to get a code change to have that apartment, they're supposed to come to this meeting first, so you would know about it. So pay attention. Brian, are you coming up? Or are you leaving this all to Bonnie? Okay.
Hi, so this property is on Canyon Road. And this house right here, 4150 North. And then if you go directly south, this land right here. So what's happening is it's being subdivided. And this is going into a half-acre lot. And Penny Glazier on 4150, her house, is going into an R110. And what happened was this is an estate settlement. Rowena Glazier, who we love, passed away, and Penny is her daughter, and she's maintaining the residence here, this residence, and this is being split off to settle the estate. And this is the beginning process of it. We start at neighborhood, then it goes to planning, and then city council. And that's it.
I got a question. It looks like there's a street east that's going north. I can't read it, 470 east. What is your long-term
At the
desire?
bottom right. I think
Bottom
is
right
what it's
corner.
Between those two empty lots.
That's it.
Yeah.
Dead end. It looks like it's going into a possible future cul-de-sac.
That's something completely different. If you have questions about that, we can talk about it after the meeting.
Okay.
That's completely different. there any other questions about this subdivision? On Canyon Road.
Well, I can see it's on Canyon Road, but whereabouts? For those of us who are a little address.
The white church just down the road. Here it is. There's Penny's house right here. And it's this piece right here.
Quail Orchard Park is just off.
Quail Orchard Park is just south of it, and just barely north of it is the White State Center. So it's in between the two there.
So it's on the east or west side of the road, the stake
It's on the
center's on.
east side of the road, north, the White State Center is on the west side of the road.
Okay.
The park is, Quail Orchard Park is on the east side of the
So
road.
this is just south of Cooks.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
All right.
just barely south of Cooks, you got it.
I struggle with addresses, but landmarks I get. So
Yeah.
I wanted a picture. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
She's just going into R1.10, which is what all these houses are, and this is going into a half acre lot.
Which will still be all right.
Yeah, just being an RA.
How many lots?
It's just splitting off this one into RA. It'll stay RA.
The rest of the property.
All right.
This is RA, and Penny is in RA right now. What's gonna happen is Penny is gonna go into R1.10. So hers will be a 10,000 square foot lot, and this is a half acre lot.
And she wants to change her zoning because.
It settles out the estate.
Maintain the agricultural rights.
It settles out the
It
estate.
changes the value of the house or something? What is it?
It settles out, she's getting her portion of the estate. Settles it out.
And it's not a big enough lot to maintain the residential agriculture standards. So. Oh, I see. So they're subdividing a bigger piece of land and I get it. Okay.
Right.
Like. The herd will simply do what's called R1.10 means a 10,000 square foot, which is a quarter acre lot. Which means that my house in an R1.10 neighborhood is not actually R1.10. Because that wasn't the standard in 1956.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Normally we take a poll whenever we have a zone change. All in favor of what's been presented, raise your hand, please. Okay. Any opposed? Well, keep your hand up. She's actually counting you. How cool is that? Let's get a number here. Okay, I am going to quickly ask if anybody's opposed and wants to be counted. Okay, great. So look at that, we're almost on schedule. So Rachel has on the agenda, just for those of you who don't know, and I'll stand so you can see me. So at this point in the meeting, because it's the new year, we have to have an election for our new board members. We used to all sit up here, but there's so many of us now, we don't fit. So they're mostly here in the front, and you met them. They stood up, they introduced themselves, they're all part of our board. But what we do is we elect a chair, vice chair, two vice chairs, and a secretary. Becca's acting as our secretary because our old one retired, and I've been your chair. The rules say I cannot continue to be chair for more than a year at a time. Oh, thank you, that's sweet. Anyway, that's the rule. We need a chair and a vice and two vice chairs. Rachel asks that members of the board email her who wanted to do which jobs so that they could be elected to those jobs by you at this meeting. And the way those emails presented is that Matthew Wheelwright volunteered to run for our chair position. And I and Paul volunteered to run as your vice chair positions. And it went flying away. Becca volunteered to run as our secretary. And since that's exactly what we need, we don't technically have to have any election, but we're going to ask you to, if you're willing to confirm those volunteers as your, Matthew as your chair, Paul and I as your vice chair, and Becca as your secretary for 2025.
That's a motion, I'll second it.
Okay, Scott's made a motion, and we'll let somebody else second it since I'm.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of that? Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, so that 15 minutes just took 2. I'm so proud. So that puts us ahead of schedule. Rachel.
Ask the question?
Yes, Paul.
So if Matt has an instructional conflict with his job, will he ever be able to attend a meeting?
It was just this one time in January. He's usually at these meetings. So, and I'm the one that actually encouraged him to run, so, because I think he'll do a great job of running the meeting smoothly and keeping you able to comment at these meetings, which is what I found to be the hardest part. Yes, Richard.
Are these meetings always on Wednesdays? I thought the last one was Tuesday, which is more convenient for some of us.
So Tuesdays generally city council. Wednesdays what they've decided is program for our meetings every 6 weeks, every 2 months.
It's quarterly.
Every quarter.
Quarterly, 4 times a year.
Change it to Wednesday.
And yeah, the schedule's back there. It did used to be another day, so you're remembering. And so they've moved it to Wednesday. We as a neighborhood or district can have any additional meetings we want. Yeah, because we all love meetings. Let's have more.
It'd be nice to have them at the fire station.
And we can do that. We can't do that with these sponsored meetings. Specifically, we were asked to have them here so that staff could more easily attend as they're just getting off work. So that's that reason. And I don't know what capability we have to do it well via Zoom at the fire station, but I agree with you. Does it? Okay, so we can look into that. So Rachel is going to present some traffic study results for several locations. Fern could not be here, but he sent it.
Right, he sent a lot of stuff, traffic studies, and I'm gonna try to get through these pretty fast. You can hear me okay. So the first one is 2200 North. He had done this one, and so there's the road that they wanted the study done on. It's a arterial road, and here's crash data. 19 crashes reported from 2021 to 2023. That's the most I've ever seen in one of these traffic studies. 19 crashes.
That's 4 more just this year.
Yeah, yeah, because that ended December 31st, right? Yeah, so 23 crashes. And then, and here's where the crashes were located, not counting the last 4 that we've had. And then also he has down, I'm just gonna skip through some of these. This is where the speed and volume monitoring location was. That's where he had set it up.
Are there a lot of crashes down near Canyon Road where they lose a lane?
A resident is saying no. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to the summary. So 23 crashes, because there's been 4 more. The posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour. The average speed is 36. The 85% speed, keep in mind, average is different from what most people are going. So the 85% is more of a true average, is 45 miles per hour. And it averages 696 vehicles per hour. Let me go back to the speed results. So highest speed, it was in the 70 to 75 miles per hour, going eastbound, and another one going westbound, going that fast.
What time of day was that? Did they give that?
I don't have that information. I just have what's on the slides. So I don't have that. And so his summary for this, we went through the summary, but his solutions: provide speed information to the police department, which he has done, deploy a speed radar trailer, and consider installing a your speed driver feedback sign going eastbound. This is what the traffic manager recommends for this one. And I'm going to kind of go through these traffic studies really fast. Yes.
Do we know regarding the crashes, is there any info if it was students or if it was local residents, or do you know what I mean?
Have it by that. It has for the crashes. It has, and this information will all be online. And if you get the newsletter, it'll be sent in the newsletter. It'll be on social media. We put, and it's also, when we get our brand new website, all of your traffic studies for District 1 will be on your District 1 website that you can look at any time.
And that's the end of the month?
Yes, yes.
Rachel, isn't the long-term goal for Provo City to expand 2200 North from Timpview Drive West to Canyon Road to 5 lanes instead of 3? And if that's done, wouldn't that solve a lot of these problems?
I'm not knowledgeable on that. So.
Worse because they would increase the speed limit. And we have a lot of kids that are walking to the schools that are right there. And I've been hit, my wife has been hit at the intersection of Timpview 2 or 3 different times. And we know other people that have been hit by cars while we were in the crosswalk because they're not paying attention and driving too fast.
The Provo City Traffic Master Plan for 2200 North just says improvements for traffic control and safety.
Okay, is that all it says? It doesn't
Not
give
say that it's
details?
5 lanes.
Oh, okay.
They are gonna change that one intersection there too, that turns off to go to the school.
They
Off
hope
the
to.
2200, yeah, that's on the, right there where it turns off by middle school. They're gonna change that intersection somehow, cause that's a very dangerous turn.
Isn't that where they were talking about a roundabout?
Roundabout.
It's all they talked about, but as Paul mentioned, what's actually written in the transportation master plan has been brought back to improvements.
Oh.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, the issue is to line it up with 200
250.
250 east, but that requires them obtaining some property that they don't have.
So there are several different ideas for improvements, but they all are determined by people willingly give, because the city council has at least currently said that they don't want to condemn any properties. So it's kind of a moot conversation as far as a long-term goal. We kind of have to talk about what is the current thing that we can do without condemning. If they want to stick to that rule of not condemning properties and people aren't willing to sell, then what Vern's suggestions are based off of are what can we do currently? So.
Thank you. So, okay, so we'll go to the next one here. And Vern has promised me that he'll stop using that green font. Okay, the next one is 3460 North. I know, the green, I was like, Vern, stop with the green font. So this is this area here. It's a local street. I think it's just a small little street. No crashes.
Is it 3650?
So
What are the cross streets here? Where are
let
we?
me find one that's got a better. Hang on here so I can figure out exactly. Okay.
Is that,
Yeah, there's
So I
the
think
street
that's
south of Edgemont.
so 400, 3460, 3650 up there.
Is that Timpview?
Yeah.
This is Timpview, this is Edgemont, this is the street south of Edgemont.
Right. And so then this is where the speed monitor was. Again, no crashes on this one. Speed results, the speed limit is 25. Average is 24 and 17. Well, with the 85% speed 26. So the average is 20, the 85% is 30. The fastest cars, which there actually are quite a few.
That would be the high school students.
Right, going about 55 to 60 eastbound and then 36 to 40 westbound. Again, the speed limit's 25 on that street. And then the volume, about 14 vehicles per hour. So let's get to the summary. 0 crashes, speed limit's 25. Average speed is 20, the 85% speed is 30, but as you saw, there's quite a few that go pretty fast.
There is not a marked crosswalk, but through that neighborhood,
there are pathways that go between the houses.
State school.
And
connections.
there is a pathway that goes across that street to the back gate of Edgemont.
Oh, okay, is that part
So
of the
there's
safe route? to the
elementary
school?
students walking that way to school.
That's probably why they requested those.
Yeah.
I can't figure out why they requested a speed study on such a small road, but that explains it.
That's why.
That makes sense. Yeah.
What's the, close to Timpview, what are the parking like there?
Sucks.
I know. I mean, I know that,
Not better.
but I would look at that and say,
They're-
that could be
They're not.
concerned.
They're not parking in our driveway anymore.
Has it?
Well, that's what I was asking,
Well,
I
I'm just
didn't know.
curious, before the Timpview construction, was this street still a problem with speeding?
Yeah.
Okay. So his, possible solutions for this one
Just south.
is just provide speed information to the police department. It's not super bad like 2200 north, but it's still something that he is requesting the police department to patrol. And then he always puts his contact information on there. And then we have 4350 North Canyon Road. He did another traffic study. And there's the road there. That's the one that they were concerned about.
What is that red?
That can't be
What is
4350
that?
That can't
north.
be 4350 north. It's
That
going.
goes
So-
south.
So that's Little Rock Canyon. So this is like Canyon Road going up to, I think when you see, when he shows where he put the monitor, I think that's at that street address. So crash data, 2 crashes. And so crash location.
That's Canyon Road.
This is Canyon
Yeah.
Road.
Yeah,
before you turn left down that new
Right.
So let me get a better picture on there. So here's where the monitoring is. So this is, what does that say? Like 4,300?
This is where your crosswalk is.
On the left is Quail
That's
Orchard.
Foothill Drive up there.
That's not Foothill. Foothill's up there.
So Little Rock Canyon's up there, Little Rock Canyon.
And Foothill.
That is
Foothill's farther.
Foothill Drive.
No, this is the
Foothill
That road
curves.
right there
That's
is
the White
Foothill.
Chapel. It's the White Chapel. Right
So
there.
it's right by the White Chapel.
Yes.
And the
Ivy property right
It's
It's the
one with the yellow
crosswalk.
is Foothill Drive. What
It's
goes
the-
downhill. That's the chapel up there at the top.
It's the crosswalk that is really tedious before
And
Canyon
that-
Crest.
This is where the crosswalk is, the kids come down.
Canyon Crest is just out of the picture on the top.
Is that the crosswalk for Canyon Crest then?
Yeah, and before Foothill Drive.
That's where the other map showed the 2 accidents,
Oh,
yes.
okay. Oh, sorry. Did you need to show? Go ahead.
There's Penny's house.
Oh, there we go.
There's the White Chapel.
Looking familiar. There we go. The zone change. There, now I know where I'm at.
So Rachel, I think for clarification, because Vern came and explained it to our TAC committee,
Oh, okay.
probably why they were doing the study there is they're gonna try and put a sidewalk on the west side from where that red dot is to Foothill and get rid of that crosswalk.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, Vern is so busy doing traffic studies, he can't come to these, so he just sends them to me and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to interpret this. So I appreciate it. So the posted speed limit is 35 miles per hour. Average northbound is 45, southbound is 35, so average speed is 39, but that 85%, again, that's 85% of what people are going, is 48. We've had just, not a ton, but people in the around 70 miles per hour range.
And they get really cranky when you drive the speed limit.
I know. So
Yes,
that's
they
crazy.
do.
And then about 154 vehicles per hour. So the summary, 2 crashes reported, overall average speed 39 miles per hour, 85% is 48. And average vehicles, 301 vehicles per hour. And so his solutions for that, again, provide the speed information to the police department and ask the police department to deploy a speed radar trailer on that street.
Our next one, Foothill Drive between Coventry Lane and Devonshire Drive. Okay, so that one is a collector street. Little red. Crash data, one crash reported. And it was dry and clear daylight on that one. That's where the crash was located, the yellow dot. And that's where you had the monitor right there, kind of just right where, pretty close to where that crash happened. Speed results, the posted speed limit is 25 miles per hour. Average speed northbound is 35, southbound is 28. So overall average speed is 31, the 85% is 38. And 5 people going 50 to 55 miles per hour, and then 1 going 56 to 30 in the other direction. Volume results, about 35 vehicles per hour on that. So summary, 1 crash reported, overall average speed 31, overall 85% speed 38, and about 74 vehicles per hour because it's about 30 something each way. And so for that one, his solutions, again, provide speed information to the police department and deploy the speed radar trailer. I think we have one more. Quail Valley Drive traffic study. And that one is a collector street. And crash data, 2 crashes reported.
Can you show us that map again?
Oh, yes, please.
Right around trying to figure out what road, where on Quail Valley.
It's the very top.
This is at the top.
It's at the top.
Yeah, I guess as it goes.
Right where it hits Foothill.
Timpview's right there. Okay.
Really steep.
Oh, is it really steep?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Very steep.
it's like the people that are going the back way to get down to Timpview in the morning, that would be my guess.
Oh,
And then
okay.
they come down that, it's
Yeah.
pretty steep and windy.
It's pretty busy.
And in the
And
winter
it's
time,
gotten a lot
Is
busier.
it bad in the winter?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Okay, obviously I don't live in your neighborhood. I'm like, I don't know any of these streets.
Had this winter.
So, yeah, so 2 crashes. I'm surprised there's only 2 crashes.
This is through December 23, so that was a year ago.
Oh, okay, so he hasn't had it, earlier in crash location, those 2 areas right there, 2 yellow dots.
after you picked up speed, you
Is
can
that where
slow
it
down.
picks up
Yeah.
curves? And that's where, and then he put the speed monitoring location a little bit farther up. Okay, speed results. So the speed limit is 25. The average speed, both directions, is 31. That 85% is 35. But again, you have people going 60 to 65. Look, 14 people southbound in the 46 to 50.
It's because it was at the top. It's.
That's what I'm wondering. If he's at
Because they're going
the
downhill.
top, it's
Yeah.
gonna, yeah. And then the volume, about 54 per hour one direction, 49 per hour in the other direction. So his summary, 2 crashes, posted speed limit 25, overall average speed 31, 85% speed 35, 103 vehicles per hour.
I'm
And then
curious
his-
if any of those crashes, when they say property damage, was it the car or somebody's house?
That it was a parked vehicle.
Oh, okay, so
Parked
another
vehicle.
car. And then possible solutions, again, speed information to the police department and consider installing a your speed driver feedback sign in the southbound direction before the crosswalk at Quail Run and Little Rock Drive intersection. And the reason why he's so specific on that is because, let's see, is she here? We had someone applied for a matching grant. Is that yours?
No, that one's not mine.
Oh, okay.
I'm here
Here's
for
one. I can't remember the name. It's written on there. Meredith. Is Meredith here? Maybe Meredith's not here. So Meredith Godfrey, she applied for a matching grant from the District 1 board, which they approved. And you are now getting a your speed driver feedback sign on this road. And it should be installed this month. Vern told me it would be installed in January.
So someone saw a problem, they asked for a speed study to be done. Vern said this really needs one of those lights. They said, do you have money for it? Public Works doesn't have it in their, but like it wasn't planned for this year. And she said, well, I'll ask District 1 to see if I can use some of their money. And that's going to be put in.
I just want to say thanks because there is a bus stop where kids meet the bus right there at that crosswalk also. And so so many kids are crossing right there and it's just such a fast turn down that hill for students headed to school. So Bell Valley, so thank you.
So a big thank you to Meredith. I asked Meredith to come, but I guess she wasn't able to make it. I wanted to kind of say thank you to her for her doing the application and all that. There's Vern's contact information, if you can read the green. And let's see where we're at. Okay, we're at the next part of the meeting. I'll let you take it over.
Okay, so that says goals for 2025. We have a couple of things here and I'm gonna maybe switch this around just a little bit. Because Richard, your name's not on my thing, but I think it was Richard was gonna present or Mike.
Present.
Okay, we're gonna switch this around because you weren't warned. Think about this for a minute while Richard presents, and then we'll take a few minutes at the end to see if anybody has any public comment or goals that you'd like to see accomplished in our neighborhood. Richard has asked to go along with Rachel's or Vern's traffic study on 2200 North. He's asked to present because they would like to do a matching grant for their street for a similar your street sign. Rachel, Zach wants your attention. Oh, no? No. Okay.
Wait, it's meals.
Thank you, Tess.
Was there a question? Okay. Thank you.
I believe so. I don't know.
Okay. Where do I aim?
You aim it at my computer, but it's gonna be doing.
So what, you'll do it when I signal you or?
You can just say next slide and I'll do it for you.
So, next slide. This happened January 10th, last Friday. And I think I got it wrong. This is wild because somebody was kind of out of it and apparently not going eastbound, going westbound, and yet knocked this car, must have done a U-turn and in fact knocked this car up onto the curb heading eastbound. So a rather wild situation just a few days ago. Next slide. This is, next slide please. This is 50 yards away on the other side of the street. I presented information about this one to the last meeting here. And so this truck came across traffic and skidded 130 feet, I think it was, and is now just nearly hit my tree there and didn't hit neighbors, Larson's house. So that was good. We have a lot of things going on in this area. Next slide, please.
They're going uphill.
Yes.
They gotta be going awfully fast to do that much
Yes, that
drama.
happens. So here's what we find for the average. Eastbound average 42 miles an hour, westbound 32 miles an hour.
And it's 25.
And the speed limit is 30. And it's arterial road classification 30. So next, so maybe the fact that the westbound does, as you get to the bottom of the hill, have your speed feedback sign and people know it's there and they want to not be speeding. I think there's a good possibility that that is helping to be responsible for the 10-mile-an-hour lower average speed going westbound than eastbound. At least that would be a nice thing if it's the case. Okay, next slide. Okay, so why should we put precedence on getting a traffic feedback sign on eastbound? We do have the highest volume of any street in the neighborhood, not adjoining the neighborhood. And an average of 8,928 a day eastbound, which is what we're proposing a sign for, and it's near 2 schools. Next slide, please. So this is the kind of thing that we would like, and we would like to arrange to do work to beautify and help maintain the neighborhood that would help us get a matching grant to fund a sign like this at 310 East 2200 North. Approximately, this would depend on conversations with Vern Kiesler and the engineering people. That's basically, let's have the next slide to show the location. And this is, so you see, till you drive up here on the east, we see Canyon Road down here on the west. You see the traffic lights, you see a 4-way stop, a 1-way stop, and then the existing sign is here, the one that's proposed is here, the speedback sign. Next slide. Just gets a little closer so you can see where this would be situated, what we're proposing. We have a safety committee that's working on things with Vern Kiesler. We're hoping for a number of other things, but we're not going to get into that now. But we would hope that you would support this proposal that we do what we can to get that sign in as soon as possible, hoping that it will help. Thank you.
Do we have the money for that?
Yeah. Rachel, do you have the info on the number of service hours we've already banked?
I think when I did the math, if you were to do another matching grant for another speed sign, you're about 70 hours short.
Okay.
Because Meredith, who got the other speed sign, did extra hours, so we're using some of her service hours, so about 70 hours short.
It would be nice if we could pay it forward and help things be available for the next ones, but technically we could do it on, I think, 70 hours.
What does Vern tell you about just putting signs up? It seems like the city would want these up without it having a special project.
The city does want them up. And so what happens is that as they identify the locations that they need to go, they go on the list. So if we want ours moved to the front of the list, we put up service hours to show them we're more serious than another neighborhood about getting it done. Yes, Jen.
That's my question. What constitutes service
So
hours?
I was just about to explain. When we have matching grants, what happens is the city says, I'll give you, and I'm just gonna throw numbers for ease. I'll give you $1,000 if you work 10 hours. And the $1,000 can be used only for these kinds of things. And the hours you give me have to be these kinds of things. And there's a whole big outline. We cannot donate a whole bunch of donuts and call that our service hours. Can't be done. Rachel, I think, tried to outline it. It needs to essentially beautify the area. So that would be my question for Richard, is if you have a specific project in mind already where we could work.
Right, it needs to be something that beautifies your community, that someone walking or driving through your community can see.
So no, this meeting does not count as service hours, I'm sorry.
Yes, it can be on private property.
Can
It
be
can
on private
be,
property.
like landscaping a neighbor's yard, painting a fence. I think even shoveling snow, I can see it when I drive through your neighborhood if I'm on the right day.
So start praying for snow.
People including. So anything, so it's kind of a twofer. You improve your community and you improve your community. You improve it with your service and you improve it with whatever you purchase with your grant money.
If you know someone in your area who needs help with their yard work, front yard only, that doesn't mean you can't work in their backyard. I can't keep track of those hours for this.
So brush removal would be a.
Brush removal,
Yes.
cleaning the hillside, we do that frequently every spring. That's part of what already lost her name. Meredith did for theirs. They
And I
made-
just wanna reiterate, we do have another person that wants to present a matching grant tonight.
Okay, so we're gonna move this as fast as we can. But mostly to try and answer your questions. So Meredith and her group did do several service hours for theirs and had some service hours left over. So what happens is whatever the sign costs, $3,500, they did enough hours to match and we get paid at about $15 an hour per person that shows up. So if you have an activity, we're gonna go clean the Smith's front yard because they just can't do it themselves anymore. Keep track of who's there, keep track of the day you do it, keep track of how many hours you work on it.
And the service just needs to be done by June 30th. So if you don't want to do something during the winter, if you want to wait till spring and early summer, you can still do the service, you can still do the grant, but you just need to make sure to complete your service by June 30th.
Did you get that? So we can apply for the grant, we can have this all planned. We would have to make sure that we get our service hours in before the end of the fiscal year is why she said June 30th specifically.
We've got good neighbors who do lots of snow blower clearing of people's front walks, and we want to start getting credit for that as soon as we can.
There you go. I didn't even think of that. My husband does.
We just need to log those.
Yes.
Does it count? Project?
Yes, they do not have to be over 18.
Over 18, it counts.
I'm with a scout troop that I think would be very happy.
Sharon?
Should I start keeping track of every time one of my neighbors shovels my drive for me?
Yes.
Okay.
Just,
Do I need to keep track of who or just that it was done?
I would say if you can't keep track of who, we don't want to double count, obviously, if they're reporting and you're reporting. Exact categories.
Idea of the actual cost of a unit like that.
About $3,500 is what the Quail Valley one costs. I have not driven past the Quail Valley one. I heard a rumor it was installed. I've heard a rumor now that it's on its way.
I just,
Haven't seen it.
I just ask that.
Yes, Richard.
We have people who want to record hours in neighborhood District 1 and the entire district is eligible for doing the work, right?
Yes.
I would hope that we could coordinate by having them report their hours to maybe the district chair or something.
That when we just.
We need to get that set up. I heard there's another district who has a spreadsheet that
Right.
they actually do that.
Right, they do a Google sheet and we share the link on Facebook and anyone in their district just adds their service hours to the Google sheet.
Can our secretary do that? Set that up for us? I know.
We will get it done. We will send you a link to it through Rachel's email. So there's your plug. If you did not hear about this meeting through an email from Rachel, sign up. She will keep you connected. So as she said, mostly at this moment, Richard has asked that we as a board, you as neighbors, say that you will support this, which means hopefully on some level you can give some service hours or send your scouts or contact BYU because BYU working in our area for us can also count as those hours. They have a service group that goes out and does that kind of thing too. So if you want to create a service project, we know we need the hillside cleaned up, but we know we need, I don't know, come up with it, you're creative. You can do that. Contact one of your neighborhood reps so that we know it's happening. What we need now is if you would support this, be in favor of us using the remainder of our matching grant. As Rachel said, we've already spent half of it on the other one. Would you be in favor of us using the remainder of our matching
Do we
grant?
want to hear the other project first?
Yeah.
There's another project.
Okay. I was giving Richard preference because I've heard about this for the last 2 months, so that would be my plug for Richard first, but.
The other person has been talking to Vern for quite a while. So I'm not sure which one started first.
So I don't know who the other person is. Rachel told me, come on up, give your presentation really quick.
I don't have a presentation, fancy one like Richard, because I didn't know I was going to.
I'm trying to bring up the street, but I'm not sure if I have the right street.
It's right by, it's connecting Days and 2950, like 2950 to Canyon, like that.
Yes, so it's from Canyon Road to Timpview Drive on 2950 where Edgemont Auto is on the corner.
There are a lot of like children's signs, like slow down signs.
That is my house.
You've been doing.
Because last year my dog was hit and killed on our street. And so that was the first, I mean, 5 years ago when I moved in, it's always been a problem to speed on our street, but when the accident happened, then I was done and needed to do something about it. So 2950, Vern did the study. He actually came out, well, it wasn't Vern at the time, I was messaging somebody else. They messaged and came out in April and did a study in April, and then they came back, Vern, and did one in July. The traffic actually went up in July, which I was surprised about because I thought school traffic would be busier. And the speed was obviously higher than the marked 25 mile an hour. So with the amount of kids and that intersection crossing over County Road, we're having people run those stop signs on like every hour. And so with all the kids going from Centennial or from Timpview or from Rock Canyon or from Edgemont, it's just very unsafe. So I've talked with Vern a few times and he came out to site to see what we could do on 2950, and then one of the options was this grant. And so that's why I'm here. To do a speed tracker sign. Yeah.
A permanent one.
Yeah. Yeah, they've brought the trailer out 2 different times. It does something while it's there and then it goes away. People just speed, lots of high school students. Yeah.
Where do you propose it be placed on 2950?
I don't know yet. Vern had talked about some other ideas with me that were more invasive than I wanted to go. So that hasn't been decided yet.
Like what? What was more invasive?
He talked about a chicane, which is new to me.
What is that? Is that like a concrete thing up there by?
Yeah, so he said they were 4 foot, like poles, and it would come out on both sides of the street.
Oh, yeah.
So not in front of my house, but he implied in front of my house, and then to get permission from my neighbor across that way. It narrows the road, so people have to slow down.
If you've got a lot of students walking on the street, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, it is. He talked about snowplows and how they get replaced and broken all the time, so I didn't know the best option.
Is there, I'm pretty familiar with that street, but I can't remember how many cars are parked on the street because that limits visibility and increases the danger. Is parking on the street a problem?
Not in front of my house. I mean, I know that my neighbor, they have older kids to drive, so they might have one and across the street from them. Otherwise, most of the people on our street are elderly and they don't have extra vehicles. So there shouldn't be a view problem because it's just a straight road.
This is the street where the neighbors have put out signs, right?
Yeah, that's my house. Like, wait for me when you drive by.
It helps, those little signs.
Thank you. Thank you for slowing down. So anyway, that's all.
Very good. All right, so we have that proposal also. Not as far along in the process, yes, Bonnie?
So even if we approve one, the other one can roll forward to the next year.
Right, and that would be my suggestion at this moment.
Since we don't have a solid plan yet, I think.
Right. Because the way they do matching grants, they do it on what's called a fiscal year. So we're almost done with this fiscal year as it is. So that would be my suggestion.
Right, it's just maybe a matter of which one you want to do first.
Yeah, if you feel strongly that we should start on 2950, speak up. But otherwise, I would say, let's start with Richard and say, all in favor of us moving forward with Richard's matching grant proposal for your speed sign is on 2250. Raise your hand, please. 2200, thank you. Okay,
Oh, and
Thank you.
reminder that you should be living in the district if you're voting.
yeah, if did anybody raise their
I
hand
just
that
realized we
doesn't live in
didn't
the
tell
district?
people that, but. Make sure.
Rachel, could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I know that the funds for the matching grants can't roll forward through the fiscal year. Can the service hours roll forward?
The service hours do not roll over. But like for this, one, I would advise that both Richard and Heather start their applications right now. And then we do Richard's, get that going, and then as
July
soon as
1st,
July
put it on the
1st hits, we do Heather's. And then you have all year to do your service hours to complete those.
And that was my next suggestion. All those in favor of us moving forward with Heather's application for, and it sounds like at this moment, we're kind of leaning towards, again, the your speed is sign. All those who would be in favor of a your speed is sign, if we decide to go with that, would you please raise your hand? If you support that?
about a specific order?
What?
So I would, Richards is started.
We just voted for Richards.
When we just voted for Richards, I would start with Richards first. And like Rachel said, I wouldn't even stop at this moment. I would start filling out the application. And then the minute July 1st hits, and in fact, before July 1st hits, I would start planning those service hours because frankly, I think they're easier to do in the summer. Let's plan a service activity or something to use those service hours for the vouchers.
So if the scouts come help me in my yard, that counts as well?
If it's in your front yard, yes.
Well, my front yard.
If they move to the backyard, stop counting the hours. Sorry. Okay, or voters, right? Put some in the front, count those, don't count the ones in the back. Richard?
We may have people who voted online. I hope they'll get a good feeling out of being counted.
Yeah.
Rachel's keeping track of all the online votes, or really is. Somebody back there is, thank you.
Got it.
You are being counted online, yes. Okay, again, all those in favor of us moving forward when the time comes with Heather's, your speed is sign, raise your hand, please.
So we can vote for this one too.
You may, yes, they're not exclusive of each other. They're just gonna go in order. So I'm gonna say, and be opposed to that because you don't feel like this is a good use of your tax dollars or matching grant funds. Okay,
I have another question about
Yeah.
the service hours.
okay,
We have one of those middle of the block parks
okay,
that they put in neighborhood in the 50s.
yes.
If somebody is cleaning that park up and doing stuff to clean that up, it's not visible from the street, but people who walk through those
That would count.
pathways.
People in the
That would
neighborhood
count.
use the park,
Yeah.
so as a community, yes,
That counts.
yes, keep track of it. It's called a pocket park and we did it in Edgemont a couple of years ago, so yes, do it. If in doubt, count it and we will tell you, yeah, record it and we'll.
Anybody
tell
who
you.
uses those middle of the block pathways has to walk through that park.
So, okay, so we've reached the point in our meeting where it's time for public comment and for District 1 goals. So if I start with public comment and give you, anybody who wants to speak at this point, 1 minute to speak. Anybody want to raise your hand, want to speak? Yes, sir. I'm going to bring the mic to you so you don't have to come all this way.
I'm Hans Kelling. I live on Apache Lane, and I have a neighbor who has a yard with weeds about this high. And in the spring and summer, that's a real fire danger. It's right next to me. I've asked the Provo City Marshals. I have asked my city councilor. I have gone to the fire department. I've done all I can. So if you can support that the ordinance is enforced, that be cleaned up so that there won't be a fire danger when spring and summer come.
Talk to the scouts in your neighborhood.
So talk to my neighbor, however.
He's talking to his
My neighbor said that they don't have any money.
Well,
So this is perfect because if it's a matter of money, we can do the service hours and count it. Because it is private property, we can't just go charge over there. So if he's resistant, then we may have to call the city and go through that process. If he's not resistant, just need service.
Something about enforcing the ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, as far as enforcing an ordinance, you're gonna have to contact 311. But if it's a matter of cost, we'd love to add this to our service hours project. Angela wants to say something.
Volunteers might be able
To say a goal.
Yes, I see no other hands for public comment. I don't want to shut you down.
So
Hey,
my
Angela,
goal
here's your goal.
suggestion-
My goal suggestion would be to all of us get as many more people involved in district meetings and just increase our email list so people are aware. That's my goal.
So there you go. I would say if you have church lists, then I wouldn't use them, but I would put a plug out in them to go to Rachel and sign up for city emails. It's a good way to be involved in your community.
We have a neighborhood safety
Thank you.
email group, like text group.
Yeah. So I would always going to route you to Rachel because they'll keep the city email. And her emails are always informative, so I would send your neighbors, sign up for her. Jeff, you had a comment or a goal?
Yeah, I mean, we don't use the church list, but we have a Riverbottoms neighborhood.
Yes.
All list and group that we give.
And we do the same, and there are Facebook pages. We have an Edgemont Facebook page, we have a District 1 Facebook page. Go sign up. And I will plug for Edgemont Facebook page. If you don't know the answers to the questions, because I think they're pretty basic, I set them up. I don't need your actual address, give me cross streets. It does ask for your address, but give me cross streets.
If we have a different representative now for each of the
And
neighborhoods.
that's kind of why I would say that.
Is that they can kind of leave that up in their neighborhood.
Right.
See if that.
Um,
Get that information out.
But I would say if you don't have the answers to the question, ask your neighbors. That's a good reason to reach out to your neighbors, ask them. Yes, Mike.
I was just going to say, a goal for moving forward, a great one is understanding these matching grants, and the fact that they are use it or lose it, and our district has probably lost a lot of money over the years. And so if we're all in the spirit of doing the volunteer hours to the maximum every single year and have a queue of 5 or 6 projects that we want to do, we're using them for safety, they're also for beautification. So if you have a project idea, let's send them to the chair and let's keep a list so that we don't ever have a year pass again that we don't actually get the money that is set aside for us.
Which, and to that end, the council was asked to look at if there's a district not using their funds, could we please, could a different district use those funds before they go away? So let's, as Mike said, let's keep a list going.
We've been pretty good in District 1.
District 1 has really been pretty good at actually getting this done. We used last year's, and in the past have done larger things, but that's been reined in. Yes, Becca.
I think it would also, thinking about the matching grants, you can online on the website with all the things, you can see what projects have been done in the past. You can also see which neighborhoods have not done any projects. So even within our district, there may be neighborhoods who've done a lot more projects and maybe neighborhoods that have never thought of anything. So I would encourage neighborhoods who haven't proposed something to be thinking and talking to residents about what they might want to do, so that the projects we do are representative of the whole district as well.
Good thought. Bonnie.
I want to pivot a little bit from the neighborhood grant here for a second. One thing that I would like to see as a goal for 2025 is that we have an emergency evacuation and preparedness plan. We just saw what happened in California. We do live on the foothills, and I have seen it burn down Canyon Road, and it was chaotic. It was crazy. Jenny Smith isn't here, but they were all, anybody on the north end of Canyon Road knows about those fires, and they're deadly. Plus we have all the foothills all the way through Indian Hills. I'd like to see us have a plan. I know the church has one, but we need one as our District 1, so we know where to go, what to do, what's expected, and nothing right now is in place.
You know, we don't even have CERT in our community. Which would be where I would go.
So we do have an emergency coordinator in town, in the city. I can't remember his name.
Chris Flingsinger.
Thank you, Chris Lissinger. I've worked with him, he's great, but you're right, we need something.
You can certify with Chris Blitzinger, and I did certify with him, and they give you a backpack, but that is for the whole city, and it's an involved process. We need one focused for District 1.
Chris what?
Blitzinger.
Blitzinger.
Yes.
So is he doing a CERT program for the city? Cause I
He
already.
has in the past, I don't know if he's,
I was
has
on
a
the
class
CERT
going at the moment.
They told us that it was just gone. I
Oh.
was on CERT for
Okay.
years.
I know they've done it in the past. That is a good goal.
I'll look into
I would hate doing, I asked him years ago to do one during the day. He used to host evening classes, and at the time I couldn't do that. Anyway, that's about wraps up our meeting. I'm supposed to announce before you run off, Mayor Kafusi's State of the City address on January 29th at 6 p.m. at the Covey Center. And our special all districts neighborhood meeting with the mayor and department directors on February 5th at 6 p.m. here.
In this room?
No, it'll be across the hall here in the council chambers. And the next neighborhood district meeting, so this meeting will be April 16th at 6 p.m. So that's what's on the calendar right now. If you have any suggestions, we'd love to do something. Spring seems to be real busy, so we've opted for the fall social. But if you have suggestions or options or things you'd like to see, please contact us. Yes, ma'am.
I live on Canyon Road, and I think it was last summer that every couple of minutes there were big trucks going up and down the street. I don't know if there was some big construction project going on farther north of me. I'm at 2950 North. But I never did find out what it was all about. It
was stuff taken off the old temple. When they took the temple down, those were trucks taking stuff away from the construction of the temple.
Were they going up the canyon?
Yes.
Yeah, to go.
Oh,
Earth go on Canyon Road instead of universities.
When
That would be my
there are major projects like that, could that be put in the newsletter?
Sure, if we know about it, we absolutely
Yeah,
can do
know
that.
about them. I'll try to keep track. Public Works has a map on their website of when they're doing projects, but if it's a private company doing it, I'm not going to be notified of that,
But that map is available through the city. There's a city map, and if anybody pulls a permit, you can see it on this map. By
Do they have to pull a permit?
sorry, I
to
don't
haul
know the
debris?
well, but to tear down a building they would.
But they
So
wouldn't necessarily tell.
we may not know the route, but so yes. Call 311 and ask them where to find that map. Hopefully they can help you, because I've seen it. It's kind of cool. If you're wondering what's going on next door, you may have seen the construction at 2825 North. That didn't hit the map. Sorry. He thought it was going to be a 3D project. It's been a little longer.
What on earth are they doing there?
It's actually due to the temple construction. They're rerouting water lines, and when they thought it would be a simple, put a new joint in to get it going up to the temple. And when they added the new joint, the old joints came loose. So they're still trying to fix the old joints that are now
I feel so
leaking.
bad for those people who live right there.
Right,
Oh,
and
goodness.
and they haven't been without water. It's not been an actual, there's been no problem, but I did speak to him.
Was
He
that
expects it to be done this week.
Is that connected to the fire hydrant that they just turned the water on, left it running and?
Indirectly, they had to lower the amount of water in the tanks. Yes, that's what the hydrant running was also.
And they did that while it was freezing.
Because you're not watering your lawn. He said specifically they're doing that in the winter on purpose, so.
Well, but I
Anyway,
mean.
thank you for coming.
People were slipping on that road right across from Days Market. I drive past there and I was watching people to try and get across that road.